Good afternoon, everybody. This is Robert with the Space Coast Rocket. We are live today with doing one of our first candidate interviews for this 2026 election season. We're starting off today with Lacey Villareal, who's running for Congress. She's running as an independent here for Florida's Congressional District 8, the newly redesigned and redrawn Congressional District 8, which encompasses all of Brevard County and a little bit of East Orange County now. We used to have some Indian River, and that's now gone. So that's the results of our new district maps that went into effect. I think Monday is when the governor might have signed it into law. So we have Lacey with us. And Lacey, this is your time to talk to our followers and the voters here in Florida's Congressional District 8 here on the Space Coast. And we want to give you the opportunity, and we give every candidate the opportunity to come on and speak to our followers and be heard and take questions. So that invitation's open to everyone. And if you are watching and you have questions, feel free to hop in the comments and ask a question. And we'll see if we have some time for Lacey to get to this. So Lacey, but why don't you get started and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So my name's Lacey. I've been in Brevard for a little over 15 years. I came here after I got out of the military. I was in the Air Force for 8 years as a cryptologic analyst. So that was fun. Grew up all over the world, mostly in Germany with my dad, who is also military for 20 years. So now I've been here on the Space Coast. I'm married to a military guy here, and just been doing that.
So why Congress? What made you want to run for Congress of all things?
So it wasn't just one thing. It's been a lot of little things. When I tried to join, before I considered joining the race, I looked for another candidate who I could support, and there wasn't anybody running yet. So I decided that I didn't want to wait for somebody else to get into the race. And I thought that it was prudent that I had, a good enough background being in Intel. I worked with NSA for a long time. So I had a good understanding of the government and things like that, why not me? We need more regular, everyday Americans in office. I think that Congress, only 2% of Congress comes from working class backgrounds. And I think there needs to be more representation from normal everyday Americans.
One of the things that, is particular about you specifically is running as an independent. Mm-hmm. And let's clear some things up for our viewers, because that's some real confusion here in Florida about the independent party. So you're a registered member of the Independent Party of Florida, which is recognized as a minor party chaired by Ernest Bach out of Pinellas County. That's different from no party affiliation, or what people would describe as an NPA. So when did you join the party? What made you join as an independent? Talk to us a little bit about that.
Sure. So I switched over to the Independent Party a little over a year ago. I looked through a lot of things to make the decision. So I worked with the election for a couple cycles as a poll worker. I got hooked up through the VA. And in talking with the people, I found that a lot of people are very independently minded, and a lot of people wish there was a third party option. And then I looked at the demographics and realized there are more independents, nonpartisan, voters here than there are even Democrats. And I thought that those people really deserved an actual representation. So being disillusioned a little bit with what the Democrats, in my opinion, weren't doing, what they should have been doing, I decided to officially make the leap over to independent.
What do you think the reason is that some people decide to be NPAs or independent as being members of one of the two major parties?
I think that people are really getting disillusioned with the far extremes of the parties. So the far extreme of the right or the far extreme of the left, and most people, from what I find, are slightly more towards the center of whatever party that they're in. I have quite a few friends on both sides of the aisle, and They're very staunch in their belief, like, I am a Democrat, I will always be a Democrat, or I'm a Republican, I'll always be a Republican. But when you get down to it and ask them questions on specific policies, what I find is that we align on a lot of things, a lot of issues we actually align on. But those two-party system is so ingrained in people's personalities and people's identities that, it's hard to, make any sort of change in any direction.
Gotcha. Let's see. I'm getting some echo, right? What's that? Okay, there we go. As of March 31st this year, Brevard County has about 17,586 minor party voters across all minority parties. That includes the independents. Combined in another 104,000, almost 105,000 NPA voters. Republicans outnumber Democrats here by nearly 2-1 in Brevard County. So what's the actual path for you to get to the 50% that you'll need come November?
So 50% of the voters is not actually what usually comes out on an off year, which is a non-presidential year. It's a little bit less than that. So that works in our favor slightly. But I'm hoping to just be seen as an alternative to the normal two-party system. I believe that ballot access should be for everybody, not just people who can just pay to be on, people who are, rich and can afford not to canvass and can afford not to talk with the constituents. So I believe that there is a path forward to winning. Also being a veteran and fighting for veteran rights. We have over 80,000 veterans just in our district alone. I'm sorry, just in our county alone, not even including in the whole district. Right. And, I'm hoping that them knowing that I'm also a veteran, I know what it means to fight for earned benefits, to live off of those benefits, to rely on them to survive, that they'll hopefully see me as, one of them and wanting to help.
We're both veterans, so again, thank you for your service. I understand what that's like. And this is Brevard County is one of the highest populations of veterans, not just in the state of Florida, but in the country. So you're in good standing there. Your release lists lowering housing and healthcare costs, protecting Social Security, and strengthening the VA. Pick one. Give me a specific bill you would file in your first 100 days and walk me through what it does.
So, I have so many examples. So, I would like to. So, two states in the country have already put forth measures. Sorry, I'm so excited. To reduce corporate buying power for single-family homes, and I think that we could do that at a federal level very easily. Both the states that did it limited it to a certain number, but I think we can limit it to nearly zero. If somebody wants to be a mogul, and not an individual person, I mean corporations, if they want to be real estate moguls, they can buy apartment complexes. They don't need to buy neighborhoods that people could actually, use as starter homes or things like that. And that'll help free up the market, one, with inventory, but two, it could help reduce costs, because corporations with unlimited buying power coming in and buying homes are driving up the costs as well. So that's just one very simple thing that has already been working in different areas of the country, and I think we could implement as a whole nationwide.
I like that. Let's take a look at some of the comments we're getting. I guess some questions here. Let's see. Donnie Farland says, "In property tax, yes or no? Thank you." I think, and this is another reason why I like to do these kinds of interviews, because that's a good question, but it's not a question for someone that's running for federal government. Your property taxes are handled at a state and local level. Yes. So your congressman, your federal United States congressman has no impact whatsoever on your property taxes. But it's a good question, but it's not for this particular race. Let's see, here's one. Let's see. Oh, same guy. So voter ID, U.S. citizens only can vote, yes or no? Thank you. Well, I think that's the law already.
Yes. That is currently the law, that you have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. I think that making it easier for U.S. citizens to vote is what we should all be concentrated on. So there are various areas in the country that are already doing same-day voter registration. I think that we should absolutely be implementing that nationwide, and then also making Election Day a national holiday so that people actually have the opportunity, more of an opportunity anyways, to get to the polls when they can.
That's a good point you bring up about actual election day, because a lot of times people have difficulty getting to the polls on election day. A lot of people like to wait till election day. They don't want to vote by mail. They don't want to go to early voting. They want to go on the day, but the polls are open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And so people are either going to work, at work, coming from work. So it makes it hard. I've heard that before about having an election day holiday, and I support that. I think that would be something good for the country.
Yeah, and that wouldn't affect all workers, obviously, shift workers and retail workers, and so many of our good workers aren't affected by national holidays. They still have to go in, but it would be a step in the right direction.
Yeah. Back to some of our questions. Brevard is the Space Coast. Where do you stand on NASA's Artemis program, the commercial crew model, Space Force funding, and what do you offer KSC and Cape Canaveral workers that the incumbent Mike Herodopoulos doesn't?
So, from everything that I've seen, Mike Herodopoulos is a supporter of of all the programs, but so am I. I'm a supporter of our space program, and I think that's, wonderful that we have different innovation. We just sent people the furthest away from Earth they've ever been, and that was really historic and wonderful. So I would, support that in any way I could.
Yeah, and I think we're all fans of the rockets here. It's good for not just for the country, but it's good for this specific congressional district commercially for providing jobs here and just innovation as well.
This is where I talk about a lot of times that we have a lot that align us, whether it be Republican, Independent, non-party, Democrat, and the love of our manatees, the love of the of NASA and Cape Canaveral. Those are things that can unite us across the spectrum.
And that brings us right into the next question. The next question is a big thing for Brevard County specifically, is the Indian River Lagoon is in trouble, and it's been in trouble, for a long time. What federal action and federal dollars are you committing to, and how is that different from what every candidate in this district has promised for the last 20 years?
Yeah, I'm not sure what every candidate has promised. I haven't done the research on every single candidate's promises, but cleaning up the Indian River Lagoon, protecting our wildlife is absolutely higher priority on my list. I would support any legislation, and I would rely on the expertise of local environmentalists and local scientists to tell me what actions are the most important that need to be taken, and then champion those voices and move those forward federally, hopefully to get funds in our area.
That's one of the biggest things I like to hear from candidates, is when they don't pretend to be experts on everything, because we do have experts. We do have experts. We do have doctors for healthcare things. And if you're willing to listen to the experts and make a decision, from the data and the information that you give, that's what you're there to do. I don't think anyone expects everyone to be an expert, in everything.
And I fully agree. There are a lot of answers that come through, and people try to give an answer to everything. But yeah, this is my first time running for office. I've held positions on multiple nonprofits, but this is my first time for an elected position. So I don't know everything, absolutely. And I would rely on those specialist communities to come in and have conversations with me and set up what we can do to fix these problems.
Good. Okay. This is what we have listed as the hard questions. We'll see how hard they are. It's yes or no. Did you vote for President Trump in 2024? Did you vote for Kamala Harris? Voters are being asked to trust your judgment, so they deserve to know whose judgment you trusted.
Sure. I'm not a Trump voter. I didn't vote for Trump in 2024 or any of his other cycles that he was in. I did vote for Kamala Harris. Within the two-party system, it's really hard to champion those third-party voices. I would have loved to vote for a third party, but especially at our federal level, it's just not possible. It's not possible when we're not elevating those voices. So if you're not voting for one, you're voting for the other. And there's really not a second option. A non-vote is a vote for whoever you don't want in office. So we rely on people coming out and making their voices heard. So yeah, in that regard, I did vote for Kamala.
Okay. Have you taken corporate PAC money or leadership PAC money? What does your fundraising look like so far? And what will your next FEC report show?
So we have not taken any corporate money, no PACs. As of right now, no corporate PACs, none of that. I wouldn't accept APAC money. I know that's I get that on the campaign trail, probably more than any question across the board. Would I accept APAC money? So that's definitely a no. My FEC reports so far have shown 0, but that's only because you don't have to report until you get over a certain threshold. So we have constant donations coming in. They're all grassroots. They're all people from this area, except for a few family friends from out of the area who've been so kind to help support. But otherwise, everybody's from right here in the community. I'm hoping that we're on the cusp of a lot more donations. We've reached a point where we now need to raise roughly $10,000 in order to secure our position on the ballot. So we are hoping for community support in order to do that.
Yeah, I was just about to get into that. A lot of people don't realize that if you haven't run for office, that you actually have to qualify to actually get on the ballot. There's more than just putting your name there. You have to meet certain requirements to do that. And in Florida, you have 2 options. You can qualify by petition, or you can pay the filing fee that you just opined is around $10,000 to get on the ballot. But I understand you're trying to qualify by petition. How many petitions are required, and where are you at right now?
So this year, because we're in a redistricting year, they made it the same for all congressional campaigns across the state. So it's roughly 2,600. Normally it's a percentage of your district's population. So it would have been different any other year. But this year is about 2,600, and they're due Monday. So we came really close. We're still putting in a couple hundred more this week. But it looks like we're going to fall just short of the requirement. And I know I'm working with other candidates across the country, and I hear about their qualifications and things like that. And I know in different states, they have a sliding scale. So if you get half the petitions, you would pay half the fee, but that's not the case here. We miss it by 1 petition, and we pay the full fee. So it looks like even though we got over halfway there and did really great and the community really came out for us, it looks like we're going to probably have to switch gears and go for the funding fee. Otherwise, we'd have to drop out.
Yeah, and you actually have to get more than a requirement, because there's an attrition rate for when you turn in those petitions. They have to be validated.
Correct.
And it's usually about 10%, get thrown out for one reason or another, and you have to pay for that validation process as well. So
that's correct. We have to pay for every single petition that we put in, and different reasons that they get kicked back are if somebody's name doesn't match exactly how they are on their voter roll. Like, let's say, for example, your middle initial is on your voter registration, but you don't normally use that. Well, on the form, you might not have put that in. So this is just a very small reason of why. Or if you had recently moved and your new address, you just instinctively put that down and not think about the fact that your voter registration isn't updated, they would kick that out too.
Right. I think one of the things, I didn't put it on the questions before, but something that's hitting everybody hard right now, are these gas prices that we're dealing with, the Iran war, that we're dealing with. Is it a war? Is it not a war? And I think people are really starting to feel that pressure at the pump right now. For somebody like me who drives around the entire county every single day, I'm feeling it. I know some of our working families are feeling it. What are your thoughts on how that's going, why we are where we are right now, and what could Congress do to fix that?
Yeah. So first and foremost, being a veteran is deeply ingrained into who I am as a person, being from a military background. Like I said, growing up overseas on bases all over the world, I understand the importance of a presence in other countries to stabilize their economies, to stabilize their political situations. Like, I support that wholeheartedly. However, I do not support the war that is happening right now. I don't support anybody, including us, sending weapons to either side in that war. So those are really hard. But rising gas prices are a direct result of that. And we see that across the board. Anytime there's a new conflict sort of in the Middle East, our gas prices shoot up. So it's a very direct correlation. Obviously, it's no comparison to what people in the actual area of the war are going through, but that is something that it's very easy to see the correlation in that. And so the powers of war should be resting with Congress, and Congress should be making those decisions. It shouldn't be a unilateral decision by any person in charge. And yeah, so I mean, I don't support the war that's happening now, and the powers need to be back in the hands of Congress. That's how it's written. That's how it's always been. So I think it should continue to be that way.
Okay. Looks like we got one more question. Look, Donnie's the only one asking questions, it seems like. Voter ID, U.S. citizenship, yes or no? I think what he means, voter ID, providing voter ID for to vote. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so like we said before, you already have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote.
Right.
There's been many, many studies on the subject, and I don't know all the numbers, but over the past 30 years, it's been something like 100 cases of voter fraud, like across 30 years, across all like races.
Right.
So voter fraud is not high, proven voter fraud. And so I definitely obviously believe that you should have to be a U.S. citizen in order to vote. That's a fundamental right that you gain once you're a citizen, and I fully support that. So what people don't always understand is that requiring a physical ID to be able to vote in a lot of instances isn't always possible. So it costs money for an ID. Not everybody has a passport. Like our senior citizens who maybe they stopped driving and like have no reason to get an ID. Now they can't vote.
Right.
So, there's probably a very easy path to that, but, it is hard because, like I said, I support no voter fraud and I support U.S. citizens voting, but easier path to voter access to elections is paramount for a functioning democracy.
Okay. In one sentence, why should a registered Republican in Brevard County vote for you over Mike Douglas?
I think that a lot of people in this area, from what I've seen, are sort of disillusioned with the far right movement. And I think that when you look at the candidates that are involved and you see somebody who, like I said, is in the military, has worked in intelligence in the military for our national defense, and comes from a working class background with a working class family, I think that should hold more weight than millionaires who are just in the position, on name power, things like that. So I think that I'm a great alternative for either side.
Okay. And where can voters find more information about you? Where can they donate? Those types of things.
Yeah. So you can follow on any platform. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and every platform gets slightly different content. That is /Villareal for Congress, the word spelled out FOR Congress. And then also you can reach my website at votevillareal.com. And that has donation links. And if you want to become involved, in the campaign in any way or find out more about my issues, I also am very responsive. My team is very small. So when I get questions coming through on any platform, including my website, I'm usually the ones to answer them. So if you guys have questions, feel free and let's have a conversation.
Anything else you want to add before we sign off?
No, I think that's it. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today.
Absolutely. And again, we offer this to all candidates, opportunity to come on and talk to the followers and let them know where you stand on the issue. So Lacey, thanks for joining us today and being open and honest and transparent with us, and good luck in your campaign. We appreciate you.
Thank you. And I did want to say one last thing, if you don't mind. So there has never been an independent third-party female in Congress.
That's right.
Ever. So if elected, I would be the first in national history. So I think that's pretty important, and that's pretty cool that we all could be a part of history in that way, and giving a voice to the third-party, nonpartisan people in this community.
Yep, you might be the first one.
Thank you so much, Robert.
Thank you.